Welcome to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Founded in 2013, the EHL is your next step on the path to college. Over the past decade, the EHL has established itself as the college placement leader on the East Coast. And now, here's your host, the commissioner of the Eastern Hockey League, Neil Ravin.
Thanks, Jim. Welcome back to the E Show. My name is Neil Ravin, and we are gearing up for the 23-24 season, dropping this on opening day. And let's bring in Jeff Mills and Anthony DiPaolo. Guys, it's been a minute since we spoke last.
A minute or a few thousand, Neil. But miss both you boys. Obviously, we talk all summer long and stuff, but that's a lot different than getting into our recording offices and getting back behind the microphone and talking all things EHL. Lots of changes, some similarities from last year, but all in all, excited for year number 11 of the EHL.
I think my voice is finally healed from March, just doing all those playoff games. But it's kind of weird because I spoke with my Rinkside reporter, Chris Russo, about this, and we both agree that it's sort of a paradox where it felt like the offseason took forever, but the summer also just flew by. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's how we felt.
I view every month differently, Anthony. April's like, oh, the season's over, but we have our combine. So it's not really over yet, but like it's kind of over. Like May, it's like, oh, we have our annual owners meeting. We go through all the scheduling to try to get that in order. So it's kind of like, all right, we're turning the page to the next year. June, we post it. Once we kind of post the schedule from the middle of June to really the end of July, I don't hear boo from anybody. It's like the quietest time of the year. August comes and it's like, hey, by the way, training camp starts in 3 weeks. And it's like, wait, what? Yeah. And then September rolls around and it's like, all right, well, we're dropping this on opening day. I would love to push opening day back 1 week because there's just too much going on at the same time right now.
Right?
But
get off your boats, get off the beach, get off the golf course, come back into the cold rink.
Yes, but it's to Anthony's point, it's been 5 months. Or a little over 5 months, I should say, since we were all in Providence for another great edition of the Frozen Finals. And we get to begin the same road back to Providence again this year, as Jeff mentioned, in season number 11 of the EHL and 9 of the EHLP. So let's start setting the table with Around the E Show.
Let's take a look at what's going on around the E Show.
Around the E Show is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code EHLB1. That's EHLB1 for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com. I think what we can do to start is just remind the folks at home who's where this year in the EHL. Because
get your maps out, folks. Here we go. Time for a little geography.
Oh, we love the geography.
Yes, we do.
I'm actually really good at geography, Jeff. Not the greatest at doing math on the air during a live EHL podcast, but I'm pretty good at geography. But with that being said, we have never had 23 teams in the EHL before. So last year I think we made it a point in this podcast to say to get to Providence will be hard. Mm-hmm. To get to Providence will be hard. Let's make sure everyone knows that. There's 23
now it'll be
teams.
harder.
Yes, there's 23 teams now, and we're bringing 4 teams there, right? So we'll start in the North, which, let's get this off our chest right away. The North was probably the best division last year, okay? We don't know that yet about this year, though, okay?
Ring. Halo from the South calling.
Yes.
Halo from the South calling.
We don't know that about this year yet, though, right? But the North...
Nick Cota from the East Division calling.
The North adds the Valley Junior Warriors, who we know finished in 5th in the East Division, but Valley had a win against every team in the North.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're basically North. And speaking of geography, we all know Haverhill, Massachusetts. It's Haverhill, not Haverhill.
Yes.
Not anything else that you call it. It's basically New Hampshire. It's how far from your house, Neil, as a New Hampshire resident?
20 minutes. It's actually what I typically say when people ask where I live. I live in northern Massachusetts. I live in northern Haverhill. It's just called Hampstead.
Basically.
That's all.
Yeah. Hampstead, New Hampshire, Haverhill, Mass. Tomato. But yeah, so geographically that makes sense to move them to the North Division, and it gives the North a little more beef. I like that. I like that move.
The North, a division that includes, of course, the Avalanche, who have been in every single Frozen Finals. Let's just get that off our chest too, right? If they can make it to their 6th Frozen Finals this year, then that would be a pretty astounding accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't a lock to get there last year. They went to double overtime. No, sorry, it was only single overtime of the Seacoast Spartans game. I know it was only March, and I have to remember it was only March, but it was single overtime. It was a triple overtime in the other series we'll get to. But I mean, the Seacoast Spartans, Anthony, like Carson Whitman has a breakaway in overtime. Like we could have had a different finals. Seacoast has to be motivated coming back for this season, right?
Yep. I mean, the Spartans were, in all sense of the word, a wagon last season. Maybe a little top heavy because they did have that Preo Max line, and it will be interesting to see what they do this season. I do kind of think back to when I was talking with head coach Brett Schreider at one of the showcases, and he was joking that he had coached one way for 20 years, and then this past season he had changed his methods, and sure enough, they were dominating the North Division. So we'll see if that success carries over into this year. I think it very well can. But yeah, you bring up a really good point, Neil. Just one shot, one breakaway. If you get a good bounce, then you see a different team going into the Frozen Finals, and it could have been very different.
Of course.
And you couldn't get a better test for them on day one, right, Neil? Playing the defending champion Boston Rangers, 11 a.m. tomorrow on Flow Hockey. Be there, be square. I mean,
we drop this podcast, boom, Spartans Rangers. Okay, let's just, you know what? Instead of just dipping our toe in, Jeff, we're just going to jump right into the season right away.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe a new Spartan, former Ranger, Mike Bischetto, could get a little information for Brett Schreider against his former team. See that name, number 93 slated on the bottom of that Spartans roster.
One of not many players, I know Anthony's about to jump all over me with this, right? That have an EHLP title and an EHL title. There's a number of 87s that did that too. Obviously, Bichette did that with the Rangers, scoring the game-winning goal now 2 years ago in overtime in Providence, and then winning it all with the EHL Rangers last year. But up in Seacoast country with Cam Arkelian on that roster,
just saw that too.
Yeah. So I mean, those are just two teams in the North, though. Remember how hot the Wolves started last year? We're going to get to fantasy and kind of the different structure we're going to have this year in a little bit, but they have AJ Lakis back. He was a podcast favorite throughout our time. Speaking of podcast favorites, you look at Vermont's roster, boom, there's Trent King. No cheapies, Anthony. No cheapies ever, right?
He's still here.
And I don't know if I sent Anthony the picture yet, but I did send it to Jeff. Hayden Bullock, back with the Vermont Lumberjacks, got a T-shirt that says 3-letter league on it. So he may have already been picked by me in the first sit around for fantasy. So I mean, the North was loaded last year, arguably the best division last year. They are just reloaded again this year, of course, with the addition of Valley. Valley moved out of the East because we're putting 2 new teams into the East. Let's start by officially now welcoming back the Bridgewater Bandits, right?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I mean, there was one text that Drev sent me, maybe it was during the scheduling or something. He just wrote back, I hope this doesn't sound weird. I'm so happy to be back. And I was like, okay, it's not weird at all. It's not weird at all, right? But they're a new team in the East Division, along with the Boston Junior Terriers, Cody Gagno, who I've talked to him so often during the off season. I have to remind myself, he hasn't played a game yet in this league yet. But I'm not sure if you guys.
He was servicing around at showcases last year. We all got to meet Cody. And...
he was able to start signing guys like all of our teams are as early as January 1st, right? They posted pictures from their very first practice as a team.
They look fast.
Their white gloves. Damn. That
they have the BU Terriers. I'm a Northeastern Husky. We all know that. So boo BU, but They are very sharp looking jerseys. I'll give them that much. All
But
right?
those
they're
white
good
gloves too, Jeff. Ooh,
the
those
locker
are
room too. Did you see the pictures of their locker room?
looks
The red
looks
lights.
phenomenal. Like those are things that like when new teams are like applying or we're trying to figure out that stuff behind the scenes, I'm like, oh yeah, you gotta have a dedicated locker room. And then it's like, how about this? So I was like, well, yeah, I mean that looks fantastic. Like,
right.
So
and Neil, speaking of the Boston Junior Terriers, another return to or first time in the EHL, but it feels like Neil Mulcahy from former assistant coach with the Southern New Hampshire Penmen. Some call him the real Neil.
There you go. I was gonna
Sean
say,
Walsh.
Are we gonna give our first Sean Walsh shout out because Neil one is the associate head coach for the Junior Terriers. Neil two just runs the EHL. That's all. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Deal. You're both great humans. You're both great Neils, and just in different areas. And Walsh was already texting me the other day. Jefferson, you ready for the E show? Yep. What you got? What are your assignments? What games do you have for the Woo showcase?
Yeah. So those are the two new teams in that division, right? Yep. Four, of course, returning teams, two of which are original six, right? Express and Rangers. You want to talk about a bounce here or there. That went to triple overtime. Remember that Sunday? Mm-hmm. They went to triple overtime. The game was followed up by the Avs in overtime against the Spartans. A different bounce in that Express Rangers game, a different bounce in that Spartans Avs game, and like the Spartans and the Express are in the finals.
Totally different frozen finals, yeah.
Right?
Remember all the texts from Tyler? Tyler's freaking out on the air.
I can't do this anymore. 3 overtimes, right? I mean, it's going to be a totally different looking Express team because there's a Jack Bosher that's not in that anymore, right? Yeah, so for the first time in 2 years, and we'll get to this, Anthony. We'll talk about the pattern, but the Rangers have gone EHL, EHLP, EHL in terms of championships over the last 3 years, right? They now have their 2, right? And like you said, Jeff, they kick off the season against the Spartans. That's a big boy matchup right off the bat.
Big boy hockey, as we like to say.
I was going to say, well, the 87s did the inverse: EHLP, EHL,
boom,
then EHLP.
Exactly. So over the last 3 years, nobody outside of the Rangers and 87s has lifted a trophy. Okay,
it's like when the Blackhawks and the LA Kings were just trading Stanley Cups. They were playing hot potato with it.
Yes, exactly. So obviously also have the Wizards and the Seahawks both in that division as well. Seahawks, gotta give them credit. A lot of teams for their preseason stuff, they find that nearby opponent and they play them. The Seahawks went and played the Huntsmen and the Little Flyers down in Philly.
Yep.
And they took, I don't know if you saw the post that Zanaboni made. They took all their cell phones.
Did you see that?
I love that. Immediately on the bus.
Fashion way, boys.
Like communicate. Right. Yep. And that's how you build those bonds early on. We're going to talk about it throughout the season on this podcast. There's so much turnover every year, right? We're over 160 commitments from this past season. The rosters are new. So you got to get to know the guys. But while we're done with the North and the East, let's make sure to talk about how the North and East are combining. Well, I don't know. Should we get to the playoffs yet? I don't want to freak people out.
We'll wait. We'll wait a little bit.
The North and East are combining to form an all-star team this year.
Yes,
let's talk about that. That's like the South Central. Northeast is going to play Rivier University and Southern New Hampshire on October 17th and 18th. So
we had that South All-Star game last year that worked well at Lebanon Valley.
Anthony called it at Lebanon Valley. We'll get to the South and Central are going to combine to play next, but we get to the Central next, who's welcoming in a new team as well there. I mean, Jeff, a native of Rhode Island. We had no teams in Rhode Island 2 years ago. Now we have 2. I think we're in a good spot, right?
Yeah. Providence Hockey Club Rhode Island. I was talking to Toby Harris over the offseason. He was talking to me about doing some games for them. It didn't really work out schedule-wise for me right now. I'm really fortunate. I'm jam-packed, but maybe in the future, like you, Neil, get married soon, kids soon, want to go closer to home. And now I got 2 teams in my backyard, the EHL and my favorite junior hockey league. So
I still think there's too many hockey clubs.
There are.
Also, I do feel like it's a missed opportunity with the scheduling. I would have loved to see a Providence Hockey Club versus Philly Hockey Club just to see who's the better PHC.
Well, we are going to call Providence Hockey Club. I'm probably going to abbreviate them as Pro. I think I have to do that, right, Anthony? keep in mind this. Years ago, I had to deal with junior flyers versus little flyers, which was confusing enough, right?
God.
Now it's
Yeah,
PHC versus PHC again, right?
Mhm.
But another division where obviously the Railers have come out 2 years in a row to advance to Providence, probably feel like their championship, their first championship for their organization, has to be coming soon, right? Obviously, the two straight appearances for the EHL team, the EHLP team loses in double overtime. I'm
Yes,
blanking.
double overtime.
Like in the championship game, so they have to feel like their championship's coming soon. You also got the Chiefs, Apple Court, Rough Riders in there, some original franchises. Chiefs pushed the Railers to the brink in Game 3 last year, so another division in that Central Division that has a little bit of a new look with Providence there. And then we finish in the South, who are already pissed off because I began the episode by saying that the North was the best last year, right? The South's probably like we've had that crown forever, but the ProTech Junior Ducks were sold and obviously became the New Jersey Bears this season, and welcomed in a new head coach who used to be with the Junior Flyers, Jason Kilcoyne, coming back to the league, and then the Pennsylvania Huntsmen adding an EHL team.
Zach Overholter is pumped for that EHL team. He was just texting me the other day too. We were texting over the summer, and then he just slipped in the text the other day. Where's Zacho? What did he say? Yeah, we were. Oh yeah, we talked about a little insider information, deal with some fantasy stuff, just a couple of those things. But then he was asking when the podcast started up, and I said this Wednesday afternoon, and then he said, and I quote, "Ooh, I'm tingly." I love you, Zach. One of my favorite general managers out there.
Yeah,
Huntsmen are going to be. I think they're going to be dangerous in the EHL.
Yeah, I mean the thing with the Pennsylvania Huntsmen, and I find it so fitting that they're playing against the 87s to open up their tenure in the EHL, because 6 years ago that was the 87s where they had a successful first season in the EHLP.
Yep,
they get an EHL team, and right off the bat, they're a good team. So I think that the Huntsmen can absolutely pull off the same. I believe they have Ryan Arendes coming back.
Yep.
For the Huntsmen, will play for the EHL team. And I mean, let me tell you guys, having called a lot of his games where they came into Jersey Shore Arena, he looked like a player where you're thinking, why isn't he in the EHL right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was that good. So I think he'll have no problem transferring over to the big club. And I mean, I cannot wait for Friday's matchup because that's going to be a good one.
I mean, what a better way to start your EHL tenure, right, Anthony? Against the 87s who have a title of their own. And I mean, I don't know if this is an accurate sentiment, but I'm sure it could be. They have to be pissed off about how their season ended this past year.
100%.
A toe save on one end, and then right back down the other end, and the shot goes in to end in the series against the Little Flyers, in which the 87s won game 1 5-0. Sorry, does that cut deep?
No, well, I was about to say, Chris and I were talking with Peter Valabona, the one who got robbed on that toe save.
Yeah.
And I was doing an interview with him for Instagram, and he was the one who brought it up. He said, I was inches away from scoring that goal. So I think he's got it on the back of his mind. Kyle Spann, who's coming back, he remembers how that series ended. I think he's going to be back with a vengeance. I thought he was terrific last season. I think he's going to come back better than ever.
Yeah. No, that's great. In a league that, like we said, Neil was mentioning earlier, no Jack Boschert, no David Felix. We're losing no Stefan Kulonic for first time in a long time ever. So I mean, it's a league that I think might be lacking veteran goaltending. It's going to probably be more teams going with younger guys. So Kyle Spann right out of the get, have someone like that's one of your career leaders, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony. I saw you guys posting some career the graphics in the offseason. I think he's getting up there now for, what was it? Or maybe not. Maybe it was just a returning graphic. But as always, you guys do a great job with showcasing who's done what. And it's hard to believe that you guys haven't been here for this is what, year 5?
Well, let's see. 17. Well, in the EHL.
You said Premier first.
EHL is year 6. Premier is year 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy
Damn.
how
So I
time
missed a
flies.
couple of years. It's insane. It's insane.
It's all
Me
right,
and Neil are
Jeff.
old as hell. Team old guys.
Yes, we are.
We're getting older. I'm gonna be 34 soon.
Rest in peace, team old guys. After one win, we'll talk about the fantasy though later on. But that South Division, mention the Bears, mention the 87s, mention the Huntsmen, mention the Philadelphia Hockey Club. New head coach taking over there, Adam Bartholomew. Not sure how well you guys know him.
Yeah, I know.
More energy than anybody in the league when he answers my phone call or calls me. So he will bring the energy. That's for sure. I think there was one coach's call. I typically I do a roll call and I'm like, I say the team name and then the team responds who's on the call, right? Express Hockey Club, Nick Coda, right? Philadelphia Hockey. When I said Philadelphia Hockey Club, I think he yelled, "The Bart Show is here." So everyone was kind of quiet. I was like, "Okay, Adam Bartholomew's here." Okay, next. So he's taking over.
I called that when I see him in Worcester.
Oh, he'll love it.
Bart Show, good to see you.
He'll love it. He'll love it. The other Philly team, the Little Flyers, bringing back a lot of their decor. Not sure if you saw their roster yet, but a good chunk of their decor coming back. Jack Costabile, Brendan Doherty, Andrew Henry, Ronnie Petrucci's back in that. So they have a pretty good core of returning guys. And then we'll wrap up Team Maryland as far south as you can go in our league, right? New head coach there. We'll give Josh Fusco a shout out. Now taking over at Franklin Pierce. So we're still going to see him at the first showcase.
Yeah, we'll miss you, Josh.
Just wearing a different logo.
Tyler Rago's got to be pumped about that. His former Franklin Pierce Ravens now being taken over by an EHL great, Josh Fusco.
Of course. New head coach, though, for Team Maryland is Eric Projan, who ran the Northeast Generals Academy with Cody Gagno, the head coach of the Boston Junior Terriers. So, Anthony, there's no Philadelphia Hockey Club versus Providence Hockey Club, and there's no Team Maryland versus Boston Junior Terriers. I have to redo the schedule already, right? I need those two matchups. But Eric taking over there, and I mentioned this earlier. We have those two games for the Northeast team. The two games for the South Central are against Stevenson University and Lebanon Valley College again. So I bring up the All-Star College Series because it's a month away. That week starts on the 16th of October, right? And essentially how it's working this year is over the course of 6 days, we will play 6 games. We have our Northeast team, we have our Central South team, and we have what I'm calling right now the Maine All-Star team. No E. It's not Maine like where I'm from. MAIN.
The primary.
Yes. So essentially how it's going to work is this. We have 23 we have 23 teams in the EHL. This is the math. Everyone buckle up. And every team is going to bring every one of those all-star teams, the 3 of them, will have 26 guys on it, right? So 78 total all-stars. So the 23 EHL teams all get 3 all-stars apiece. Okay? Then there will be 9 that get a 4th all-star. When we have that list of who the 78 all-stars are, the 23 teams are not all guaranteed somebody on the main all-star team. So it could mean this is the 87s. We just talked about this. They could be Kyle Spann, Peter Valbona, and give me a third name, Anthony.
Keaton Richards.
There you go. So maybe Spann is on the main all-star team, and the other 2 guys end up on the Central South all-star team, right? Tay Mellis will be on the main all-star team. Okay, we'll cross that one off right now.
Got that, Richie?
Okay,
hey, Rich, good to see you again.
He'll be on the main all-star team. But the point being that Monday, October 16th, Northeast meets up for a practice. South Central meets up for a practice. Tuesday, Northeast plays Rivier. South Central plays Stevenson. Wednesday, Northeast plays SNU. South Central plays Lebanon Valley College. Thursday, we breathe for a second. The main all-star team practices at Brockport. Friday, the main all-star team plays at Fredonia. Saturday, the main all-star team plays at Brockport.
City Brockport, aka EHL Vet Central, baby.
Yes, 6 college games in 6 days. Well, really, I should say
From October 16th to the 22nd.
In 4 days, because there's 2 practice days, right? It's October 16th to 21st, right? But in order to be one of those 3 All-Stars at least from your team, you make it a 4th, right? We covered that. You got to come out of the gates fast.
Yeah.
You got to come out of the gates fast and get that attention early on, because, and you guys know this, you want to be a part of those games. I mean, those games are as exciting as we've had. Anthony, the game that you had against Lebanon Valley College, you called that game. That is why we have four of them this year, because the South did so well.
Such a good job, yeah.
Like now the Northeast is playing 2 games. Now the Central South's playing 2 games. I already have the matchups, Manhattanville and Post University, for the Central South for next season.
Look at you.
This is where the players that do get a chance to get selected. Like, this is an insane opportunity.
We watched Trevor Jewell make a ridiculous
really
save for Brockport or against Brockport, and then got signed by them.
Yeah, 100%. And Anthony, you called the game like it's college hockey.
It is. I mean, with Lebanon Valley, that was really fun because first off, they play in a gorgeous arena. It's the old one at Hershey where Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points.
Allegedly.
That's right.
Allegedly. they had the plaque in that arena. I mean, I also remember, I think Philadelphia Hockey Club made up for 3 of the 4 goals that the All-Star team scored.
Yep.
And then there was that tying goal where Fulkerson just lobbed a puck up and Patrick Demarinis made this insane Joe Pavelski-like deflection where he just batted the puck with the shaft of his stick and in the net. Chris and I were going nuts in the press box. But yeah, for the players listening, yeah, that's right, Jeff. But for the players listening, I mean, it is so fun. You get to really challenge yourself because these college teams are legit. But the fact that we're getting more teams, we have the main all-star team and the divisional teams, the fact that we get to send more players to showcase themselves against these college coaches and these teams, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's good for everyone. Good for the league, players, coaches, broadcasters.
And it's what sets the league apart.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, the 78 players should all commit, right? I mean, they have a little bit of that edge, if you will, on everybody else because they get the chance to play college hockey right now while playing junior hockey. And again, it's not till October, but it's going to come up damn fast. I mean, the season starts September 14th. That week starts October 16th. Like, we're going to have a chance to kind of dip our feet in a little bit on the 14th through the 27th. And then, bam, 62-game first showcase of the season.
60, it'll be Thanksgiving.
62 games, right? But yes, Jeff, you're right. But no Thanksgiving game this year.
Jeff, we're going to have to bring a lot of cough drops to Worcester.
Hey, I'm going to I go to Target all the time. I'll be getting my 80-pack here soon with the lemon with the nice little menthol.
The lemon and honey.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's I cut this off earlier, Jeff, but now that we've covered every division, the playoff formats where everyone knows. For the EHL, the last place team in every division does not make it. So the North, that means 4 of the 5 make it. For the East, Central, and South, 5 of the 6 make it.
For those keeping track at home, it used to be every team from every division would make it. We had playing games, all sorts of stuff, but another nice wrinkle. I like this.
We still have more. Well, we still have 1 playing game each in the East, Central, and South because they have 5 teams. 4 plays 5, right?
After that, not everybody gets in.
After that play-in game, we're at 4 teams in each division because the North has already cut down from 5 to 4. After the play-in game's done, you have 2 teams out in the East, Central, and South. 1 plays 4, 2 plays 3. Winners advance. 1 winner from each division moves on to the Frozen Finals. And of course, remember, when you get there, you get your final 4 teams. You're ranked based off of where you finished in the regular season. So there's a good chance that the 1-4 matchup or the 2-3 matchup will get to Providence, and we've never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
Because in terms of
this might be the year. This is the year we get a little bit of a shakeup.
Maybe it could be. In terms of league-wide
Should be.
showcases, we only have 3 this year, right?
Yep.
So in Worcester to start the season, every EHL team plays 3 games. In Newington, middle of the season, every EHL team plays 3 games. In Aston, Philly, end of the season at the Little Flyers, everyone plays 3 games. This is easy math. There's 6 teams in the South Division. You can't play all 6. You can't play everyone, right? The 6 teams in the South physically cannot play every other team.
Why not?
In the Central, East, and North. Like, it's just not going to happen,
Okay.
right? So it would be pretty cool, because this happens in a lot of other hockey leagues. It happens a lot in college hockey, where you get a matchup that you've literally never seen before, right? Like, imagine we may not have Team Maryland versus the Junior Terriers during the regular season. What if we get it in Providence? Like it
game
could
tape to watch on how you did before.
It could definitely happen this year. That's the EHL. EHLP. There's only one change. Like I said before, we're bringing the Bandits back, and they're joining the Boston division. I should say there's a couple of changes here, because the Chiefs are moving from the New England division down to the Mid-Atlantic division. The Chiefs are in this middle spot of the EHLP, and there's nothing around them.
Yeah.
I think everyone can attest to that. There's really nothing around them. They could either be with the Mass guys north, or they have to go south. So if you look at those divisions, it looks a little awkward. 4 in New England, 6 in Boston, 6 in Mid-Atlantic. But again, the EHL has 23 teams. We've never been that big. The EHLP has 16 teams. We've never been that big before. So, of course, we play it down for one division champion in each division, and then at large, the next best record, which, as we saw last year, that was the Railers, who went to Providence, went all the way to the championship game. Anthony went up 2-0, only to lose in double overtime. So really, it just shows you it's too early to talk about playoffs, Jeff, but at the same time, every point matters. Yeah. Because if you don't win your division, you got to be that at large if you still want to go. And if you get there, all bets are off. We know how the EHL works with the 2 best of 3s. In a round robin, you could simulate that thing 1,000 times, and somebody else wins every single time. Oh, yeah. It feels like that, right?
100%. We've done enough round robins between the 3 of us that's the case. Usually you do it 999 times, it's going to come out a lot of different ways. But yeah, I like all these new changes, Neo and Anthony. Honestly, it's exciting. It brings some different feels coming into the new season, and rightfully so.
I want to go back to that change with the EHL real quick. The fact that some teams, won't qualify for the playoffs at all.
Yeah,
I think that we're going to be seeing down the home stretch a lot of those teams fighting for their lives, and I think it's going to mean more meaningful regular season games, especially down the stretch, and I am all for that.
I agree. 100%. Yeah, look at that South Division race last year. Remember those last episodes we were doing? Oh, the jockeying between the Little Flyers, Team Maryland, New Jersey, Pro Tech, everybody's just jumping over each other, jumping back down. Took until the very last day to figure that
three points could get you from like 5th place to 2nd.
Yeah, you could be looking at possibly starting your offseason real soon, or jumping into the playoff mix on day number, whatever the heck number of days we have in the season now.
And for those that have the showcase tab open at home, while I say there's 3 league-wide showcases,
there's
minis. There's 3 mini showcases, right? Yes. So in November, every single team from the North, East, and Central divisions, minus the Apple Core, will be going to the Worcester, right? So think about this.
Because they're going to go to the South.
They're going to the other mini showcase for the
right.
North,
So they're going
East,
to go to the one in Hollydale.
No, I'm saying the other one in February. Where it says all North, East, and Central, right?
They're going to go to
it's because there's an odd number of teams. When you add, this is math again, Jeff. We do too much math on this podcast, right?
Didn't feel like your math teacher say anything over the last 20 years.
When you add the 5, 6, and 6, North, East, and Central, it gives you 17 teams, right? Not really an even number. So in order to get to 16 teams, the Apple Core go to one of them, and the Rough Riders go to one of them, right? So my point is, though, for that first mini showcase, which happens to also be in Worcester, November 7th through 9th.
Great place.
That's 16 teams.
The Wick.
That's a mini showcase. That's 16 teams.
So air quotes, mini showcase?
That was the league a few years ago, right?
Yes, it was. That's the new mini, bud.
The following week, the 6 teams in the South Division get together for their mini showcase, 2 games apiece. And then the third mini, as I was mentioning, while the Rough Riders go to that first one in November, the Apple Corps go to the one in February at Exeter, which, of course, Jake's most important question that he asked Brett Trider was if the food would be just as good at that mini showcase this year. A special shout out to Jake, though. He did so well with those coach interviews throughout the offseason. Highlighted each one basically by saying that he was going to give every coach a big hug when he sees them at the first showcase, which is not surprising at all. But it was a great change up, Jeff. I mean, for you and I mean, how many of those off-season episodes have we done going over the history, right? This was a good
we did
chance. Good chance for Jake to get to know the coaches better. I mean, he asked some questions that were like phenomenal, asking guys that were former players, like, hey, when you played in 6 different places while bouncing around in the ECHL and the SPHL, which place had the best food? Like I never even thought would think to ask that, but some of these guys opened
Jake's
up.
a good Italian. Food's important in the Basile life, you know?
And some of these coaches open up and give answers where it's like, I didn't know the coach had that much personality. Like, great, This is fantastic.
It allows all of us to learn more about all these guys that we spend so much time with, you know?
Yep. And then in terms of those league-wide showcases, I mentioned the big one coming up in Worcester. All EHL and EHLP teams will be at that. It's only EHL teams in Newington this year. No EHLP teams at all. And look, Anthony, look at this. Last showcase of the year, all EHL and EHLP teams in Philly at Aston.
They asked, they shall receive. There it is. They've been asking for years.
The biggest thing I want to point out with this, and I know we're getting so far ahead with the college series and the playoffs and the showcases, et cetera, but the Aston showcase is March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the final 3 days of the regular season.
Ooh.
Right? So
there's going to be some important showcase games.
Showcase
is now 3 20-minute periods, Neil. Did we talk about that yet?
Well, for the league-wide showcases, there's still 225s. For the mini showcases, they're 320s. Just to make it another wrinkle there, Jeff. Yeah. So the league-wide showcases, we have too many teams. So there's only so many games you can have at a certain day at Worcester. They haven't started building the rink on top of the rink yet. They only have the 2 sheets. That's a joke. They're not going to build a rink on top of the rink. But like in Aston, we're going to Philly. They have 4 sheets. That's a huge relief for me to have 4 sheets of ice in the same building. So the 3 league-wide showcases are 225s. The 3 mini ones are 320s. So again, though, it's funny how there's 865 games combined, EHL and EHLP regular season, right? And you think, we have 2 games the day that this podcast drops. We saw last year how important every single point is. So Spartans, Rangers, Connecticut, Chiefs, Rough Riders, Nutmeg State battle to start the season, Anthony. Every point is important. Especially,
Anthony, I think I used Nutmeg State during a baseball showcase this year when it was 2 Connecticut teams. All because of you, bud.
Well, and especially because not every team makes it this year, Anthony, like you said, right? The battle is going to be that intense. And we're going to have some games at that final showcase that are like huge. You're going to have a South team. You're going to have a South team versus an East team, both who need the points badly, but they're in different divisions, right? But their playoff lives will be on the line in those games, right?
Coaches biting their nails.
And the big thing that we were going for and talking about out with the owners at that time of the calendar year, in terms of Division 2 and Division 3 colleges, where we place the majority of our players, of course. Division 2, Northeast 10, they're done in late February, right? So those 6 teams, we know they're already in the off season. For the remaining D3 schools, come March 2nd through 4th, all of their conference championships are done. So there's only 12 teams left that are still in the NCAA tournament. So when you combine everything together, and you take those 12 teams out, where are the other 80 teams? Come to our showcase in Philly, all right? There's 2 snack bars.
There's your invitation now.
No, one snack bar, 1 restaurant.
Well, I've never been there, Anthony. You've
never been there. Oh my God, I've been there too many times to count, Jeff. But
asked to know. I've been to the Junior Flyers old place when we did the finals there.
Yes,
I always get confused. Ice Line and Ice Works.
Yes, Junior and Junior Flyers and Little Flyers. It's right. Not confusing at all. But that's how you set the table for the season. There is so much in this season. Sorry, Anthony, you want to go?
Yeah, well, I guess one thing that I also want to add is that I think it's also great that there's a showcase that late into the season because with the Worcester showcase, when it's the very beginning of the season, you still might see a lot of roster changes ahead. So for coaches, they might see some guys who might not even be on the team at that point, whether it's a trade or if they go on to a different league.
Very good point.
By March, those teams are set. They're in mid-season form, and I think that's when coaches can really get a really good look at a player.
That's a great point, Anthony. Look at last year. With
and also see how they handle crunch time. Like what Neil was saying, if they're fighting for their playoff lives, how do these players handle pressure? So I think that's another thing that these coaches can watch out for. Sorry to cut you off, Jeff.
No, absolutely. Finish your point. That was I was just going to say, piggybacking off of that. Look at last year with the Rangers. David Felak wasn't on the Rangers during the Worcester Showcase. Rich found him after. And then we all know what he did on his run to the Frozen Finals, won the championship. He was pretty good. So to your point, Anthony, that's a massive, massive point. And I think that's something that I didn't really think of, but I think that's a little silver lining with that last showcase. What Anthony just said about college coaches, this is the first chance you get to see them really putting a fire. Your team is 2 points out of going home for the offseason or playing the playoffs. How are you going to do? Put up or shut up. Go pass the test. Boom. That's a great thing for college coaches to be able to see.
AHL players that aren't committed yet, this is how you crank the pressure up.
Yeah.
And like you said to start this episode, Jeff, the 11th season of the EHL, the 9th of the EHLP, it feels just massive. What's in front of us right now, right? There's so much that's about to unfold over the next 7 months that come April, combine time again, we're going to be in the Anthony mode where he said needed to catch his breath or get his voice back, right? I mean, we're about to begin this dead sprint, really, from September 14th to March 4th, and then the finals actually end this year on March 31st, the last day of the month of March. You know how I love symmetry and stuff like that, Jeff. It just kind of felt right that the second we turn over into April, the season's over. But March 31st, the final day this year. So there you have it. That's how the season outlook will go for the EHL and EHLP. We don't have any fantasy picks yet because we're changing fantasy up this year. So let's now jump to the eShow Fantasy Challenge.
Now it's time for the eShow Fantasy Challenge. Follow along on the EHL app. Available now for free on both Apple iOS and Android.
Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. You can download the app now and use code THPN to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Do you have a gambling problem? If so, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.sot1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus, age varies plus jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
New sponsor this year for the Fantasy Challenge. Jeff, fantastic job with a page-long read.
Woo!
That I didn't know what I wanted to tell you about that, so I was like, you know what, we're just going to hit Jeff with the curveball like minutes before we record the podcast. But you nailed it.
Thanks, Neil.
We are now sponsored by DraftKings, part of our partnership with the Hockey Podcast Network. Of course, those DraftKings ads soon, Jeff, will say NHL too. But right now, there's only NFL that you can really bet on. I don't know about you, Anthony, but our baseball team stinks.
I was just going to say MLB. What is that? I don't think there is an MLB anymore. I turned the Red Sox off about a month and a half ago.
I mean, I don't even know how I feel about my football team, but that's a whole different conversation. Are you, Anthony, you're not a Jets fan, right? You are.
I am.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
no.
I'm sorry.
The season. Well, I was gonna say the season only lasted 4 snaps, but I mean,
Anthony,
is there a pun because he snapped his Achilles? Sorry, it's too soon.
no.
No, but Neil, as diehard Patriots fans, like I'm sure Neil, because I know you very well, that you felt the same way I did. That was just really sad to see, honestly. Someone like that storyline was so big. Hard Knocks was unbelievable, and for him to just go out like that, 4 plays in, didn't even complete a pass as a Jet, like that was depressing.
And like to speak sad about bets, which do responsibly, of course, right? Yes. Imagine if did you do this, Anthony? Bet on the Jets to win the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people did that. The odds went from like 16-1 to 50-1.
Yep.
Like. But hey, they won the game on Monday night.
They did. Heck of a defense, heck of a running game. So,
yeah, I mean, Xavier Gibson, I think as he was returning the punt, he just realized that, oh, wait, Zach Wilson's going to be throwing the ball after this? No, can't have that. And he just,
like, I got it.
He just gunned it for the end zone.
I'll end it.
But yeah, we don't really have anything much to tell you about with the eShow Fantasy Challenge because we're not going week by week this year. If you haven't gotten your EHL app on your phone yet, make sure to do so. It was great last year. We totally revamped it this year. There's just quick access, right? So like tomorrow or even Friday, like jump right on there, click the scores button on the bottom. You get all your scores right there, right in the palm of your hand, right? And as the season unfolds, when you click menu on the right side and then scroll down to Fantasy Challenge, we're going to have a new Fantasy Challenge this year where you, the fans, the parents, the players can be a part of it if they want to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can submit their picks on a monthly basis. We're all going to pick a forward, a D, and a goalie, and whoever finishes at the top of the chart, which we hope that there's tremendous fan interaction, right? We'd love to have more and more people be a part of this. Whoever finishes at the top gets a prize pack of EHL swag from my basement. That's where it is right now. Polos, sweatshirts, T-shirts. I think I still have. Yes, I still do. I still have the. This goes on the back of your cell phone to hold like a hotel key or a credit card. So.
Are we gonna have people enter anonymously, Neil, or are they gonna have?
No, they got to put their name in because
how about our college coaches? Are they allowed?
No,
promptly.
They'll probably be doing it.
Them.
Yeah, they'll probably be doing it behind the scenes, right? But the big thing I want the fans at home to be doing over the course of between now and the end of the first showcase is to do your research, right? We're not starting the fantasy yet because who knows who right now? Like, I mean. We could all go out there and pick Tay Ellis and Kyle Span and like returning guys, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know what new players are going to come in and just pop off when the season starts, right? So come Monday, October 2nd, we're going to start getting the selections out there, and that's when the first month will begin. It would be the first, but the first is the final day of the showcase. So we'll start on Monday the 2nd, and that's your first month. The month of October will be the first E-Show Fantasy Challenge. What's up, Anthony?
Just a quick question regarding fantasy. So you said we're going to pick one of each position, forward, defenseman, goalie.
Yes.
Are the three of us going to have to abide by any rules like has to be a combination of EHL and EHLP?
No.
We didn't
I think
be whatever you want.
I think it can be whatever combination you want.
And how often are we picking those? Once a month?
Once a month. So if the first
So you let it ride for a whole
fantasy
month.
challenge will be October 2nd to the final day of October.
Got it.
The first is the
Halloween.
last day of that showcase, so it's just hard to launch it on that day. The
Right.
second month will be the first day of November, November 1st, to the final day of November. December will be a shorter one, but there's a showcase in there, right? So December 1st through, I think our last game before the holiday break is December 21st, something like that, right? January, our first game is like January 4th through the final day of January. And then February 1st through March 4th, the last day of the regular season. So it's interesting, Anthony, because in December, there's only an EHL showcase, right? So maybe that deters people away from picking an EHLP player. But the big thing I wanted to get out there was we're not starting it yet because there's too many names still to learn for all of us. It's tough for the broadcasters to even learn how to pronounce the names first, let alone know who's going to score the goals, right? But I think by the end of the Worcester showcase, we'll have a good sense of who we're ready to pick. And come Monday, October 2nd, you'll see a big list showing up on our fantasy challenge page, which you'll be able to follow along on your app and see where you're at, right? Not just where your favorite team is at in the standings. You can see where you're at personally against us, against everybody else that's a part of the fantasy challenge. I'm excited about it. And the winner gets some EHL swag. Can't beat that, right?
Nope.
So
never have enough swag.
I can't wait to go from a third place finish to like 217th.
Anthony's already starting out on a negative feel.
We're gonna wrap up our first episode now with what to watch for.
And now here's what to watch for in the EHL and the EHLP.
What to watch for is presented by Flow Hockey, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2023-2024 season.
We'll make this a little bit easier for us because it's early on. One game apiece in each division that we're watching for between now and next week's podcast. For me, EHL, just talked about their gloves earlier. Welcome to the EHL. Your first game for the Boston Junior Terriers is against the Railers in Worcester. That's how you jump in with both feet there as well. For the EHLP, I don't really want to take that one from Anthony just in case he was going to say it. Well, I don't know. Well, is Anthony going to pick the 87s in both? You know what? I'll go 87s Adirondack. Of course, Adirondack, a little bit disappointing what happened in the playoffs to them last year. They were kind of a hot pick to win the New England division and make it to the Frozen Finals. Right off the bat, they get the defending champions. So I'm watching out for Terriers versus Railers, and then 87s versus Adirondack. What do you guys got?
Let's see. I'm gonna say, that first game just really sticks out to me with the Rangers defending their title and the Seacoast Spartans, who were just shy of getting to the Frozen Finals last year.
Yep.
I know Rich has been talking to you, Neil. You were saying the other day, but these forwards might be some of the best forwards he's ever had. Yeah. That's saying something because he's had some pretty damn good forwards. And then with the Spartans, like we already said earlier in the podcast, you get guys like Boschetto and Cam Arikalian that know the Rangers a little bit, so maybe their scouting reports will help. I saw Skelton's back as a goaltender. He was a guy that was paired with Tristan Fatadad last year, so that's a veteran goalie that's returning like Kyle Spann, so that could be a good matchup in game one of 865, you said, for our year, Neil?
It feels like such a huge number, but you know it's going to fly by, right?
Yep.
Anthony? Oh, no, sorry, Jeff. I cut you off.
Oh, actually, I have to pick up EHLP as well.
Yeah, we're rusty.
Yeah, right. So you had said you picked Thunder. You picked the
Thunder versus 87s. Yep.
That's an interesting team. How about, and we got some Railers fans on this podcast. How about we go Railers Avalanche? That's an interesting one. Saturday, September 16th. Because noticing, speaking of people that do social media very well, Jake, Trevor, the whole gang over there, Jamie, everybody. I just noticed that the Railers are graduating 5 EHL Premier guys to the EHL level. So with that being said, that Premier team is going to look a little different. So how do they match up against the New Hampshire Avalanche, another team in the Premier that's went to the Frozen Finals again last year that's been good for years? So I'll pick that as my EHLP matchup to watch for. And Anthony, down to you in the South, boy.
Well, I guess I'll go with the homer pick for the EHL side. I had already talked about it, but I guess it's a point worth reiterating. The 87s hosting the Pennsylvania Huntsmen. 6 years ago, the 87s were coming off a great first season in the P, got an EHL team, and now the Huntsmen are pretty much in that same exact spot. They did a great job in the Mid-Atlantic Division last season in the EHLP. Now they've got an EHL team. I think they laid a really good foundation. I'm excited to see what they're going to do at the EHL level. So that will make for a really good matchup on Friday. Can't wait to have the call alongside Chris Russo for that one.
Yeah, the gang's back together, Anthony and Chris. Love it.
At the EHLP level, I guess I'll stay in that Mid-Atlantic Division. The Union Junior Thunder against the New Jersey Renegades. I want to see how the Union Junior Thunder is going to do this year. They're bringing back a lot of guys from last season's team because last year they were a very, very young team. Not much experience at the junior hockey level. I know the Sixnius brothers are back. Ryan Byington, Hayden McWiggin, his older brother Hugh, of course, playing for the 87s, winning that first EHLP championship. Mm-hmm. So I want to see what Union's going to do. I think that after their first season, there's really nowhere to go but up. And they're going to go against a team in the Renegades. So I'll be keeping an eye out on that one.
Those are 6 very good games to watch to start the season. It's crazy how we just jump right in. I didn't even count how many there are. I could count how many there are fast if you wanted me to. Mm-hmm. It's a boatload in each division. There's 13 games just this weekend in the EHL. 11 in the EHLP. Every team, for the most part, gets their feet wet with a game or two before the first showcase, which, as I mentioned, September 28th through October 1st, a 62-game showcase featuring all 39 teams. Rest up, guys. That's going to be an absolute gauntlet of a weekend, but it's going to be great. And we're back, man. We're back. So like we did last season, every podcast will drop every Thursday throughout the season, with the exception of some special showcase and all-star weeks where we may skip a week or drop it on a Wednesday. But for the most part, you can expect this podcast to come your way every Thursday throughout the season. And if you need one more piece of content to gear yourself up for the season, make sure to check out Anthony's great season preview, which is posted on the league website, and the Hockey Night in Boston, their news section as well. So
already retweeted it, Ant. That was a good preview before the podcast. Good job, bud.
Got some new partners, a bunch of new players, some new coaches, and more teams than we've ever had before. So why not drop the puck and start the season, guys? Let's have fun.
Let's go. Let's flow. See you then.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.